Welcome to Crown Chat with Nichelle. For those of you that are first timers, I'm your host, Nichelle Miller. For those of you that have been with us several times, you already know who I am, and welcome back. I am also your Pure International Elite Miss Heartland USA, and I'm heading to internationals next month, so I'm really excited about that. But part of my journey and part of my platform is the Power to Dream, which is empowering women and girls to share their goals and dreams and to really pursue those no matter their circumstances or resources. And part of that is this show, which allows various queens from different systems to share their journeys, to share their platforms, to share what's going on in their lives, and you can meet the women behind the crown. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to tonight's guest, the amazing Carissa Alexandra, Ms. Classic Beauties International 2023. Welcome, Queen.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am so glad to have you on. I have been watching your journey for a while. I'm kind of a secret journey watcher behind the scenes. And so I watched you as, I think you were Miss Sweden,
Yes.
and then you were Miss Russia, and then you won your title. You won your division. So tell us a little bit about your pageant journey. How'd you get started and how'd you get to where you are today?
Well, I actually did my first pageant, which was a live pageant. It was Miss Plus America. And that was about 17 years ago. That was a long time ago. And it took me 10 years to get to that. I left my home because of domestic violence in the middle of everything. And so couldn't do a thing. And it took me 10 years to get to the point where I was able to compete and do it live. I competed, I got third runner-up. I had a blast. I finally knew I had found my people. And that was the best feeling in the whole world. And so because of limited finances, it's usually a few years in between when I compete. So it was taking a little while. I did a couple of other live competitions. I won a national title for American Renaissance, and that was 2014, I believe. But my health this whole time had been in the background, and it started getting worse. And I started realizing this is a typical thing with domestic violence history. The chronic stress that we are under and the pressure that we're under as survivors takes a toll on our health. And in my case, I had that, plus I went through an anthrax scare at the radio station that I was working at.
Oh my goodness.
And was on Cipro for a week and then almost died. They put me on another medication because there was no live spores in there, thank God, but I got something. And it was bad. And I went through an anthrax scare that was just horrific. And being somebody who at that point was delivering the news, the one thing I didn't want was to be the news.
Yeah.
So that was really scary. And it was a long journey from there. But after doing American Renaissance, my health got to the point where it was pretty iffy. Thought I was going to do one more competition, All-American, which I actually held a talent title for previously. I used a domestic violence monologue I wrote telling the story of leaving and what happens after, and won my talent title. So I wanted to go back and get the other title. The last minute, my doctor would not release me to go. So I thought, well, I guess there goes that. Unknown to me, the director got a hold of me and she said, I still want you. And she basically awarded me my national title at large.
Wow.
And it enabled me to have that year to work on my platform of domestic violence related stuff. And then I thought I was going to retire. Yeah, right. Somebody, we shall remain nameless, but we both know, got a hold of me and asked me if I would like to participate in Classic Beauties International. And They informed me that it was virtual, so
Mhm.
I didn't have the travel. I didn't have all the stuff that made it so prohibitive for me,
Yeah.
health wise. It was something that I could still do. So that took me about 10 seconds to say yes.
Awesome. Awesome.
And I started on that journey, but it was a 5-year journey to my international title.
Wow.
So it started out slow, but I knew where I wanted to go and I stayed focused. And every year I learned something. And I think people who haven't been involved in pageants don't really realize what amazing skills that you get as a result of competing. Everything from the interview skills that we're using right now
Yeah.
to being able to work with other people and accomplish amazing things in the area that is your passion. And in my case, my calling. And so that's what I wound up doing. And
Wow.
last October was my time.
I
And
love that. I love that. And I appreciate your story, and I think this is a good message for people that are watching, because you weren't able to go compete at the pageant that you planned, but someone had been watching you and seen you working and seeing what you were about and your work ethic and just you, and you still were awarded a title. So I think it's very important for queens, or those interested in pageantry, to know someone's always watching. Someone is always watching, and you never know what will come out of that. But then even your resilience and continuing your journey, because like you were Mrs. Sweden, or Ms. Sweden, I'm sorry, and then Ms. Russia, and then you're getting your title, and it took you a bit, but you kept going and you kept learning and building on that. So I think that's a beautiful message to everybody, because it doesn't always happen the first time out the gate where you go and it happens, and if that's what it's about for you, then this might not be your sport. So so I
exactly.
I think that's a good message to share with everybody. So you alluded to it a little bit. So tell us about your platform.
My platform is Survival to Success Academy. I help domestic violence survivors to get out safe, start over, heal, and build success after leaving. And it's a long journey. And I can tell you, excuse me, you probably noticed that I've been pretty quiet the last little while. And being a survivor myself and dealing with a very corrupt family court, um, my ex came after me both barrels after 25 years and took away my disabled daughter's only income. So we've been struggling.
Oh God.
And I had to kind of stick things on the back burner and know that I will get back to this. I am determined I will get back to this.
Absolutely.
But sometimes we have to do self-care first and then move on to be able to do the thing that we're called to do. And that's where I've been, is working on the self-care and figuring things out and making it work,
Yeah.
building a future. And that's exciting. That's exciting for me. It's also exciting for every other survivor, because in seeing me, I've seen this time after time. They tell me, we know you're making it. If you can do this, we can do this.
Yes.
And that's powerful.
Definitely. Definitely. Hey, Michaela. Hey, girl. She said, "Hey, sister queens." So
Hey,
I think that's such an important message as well, and a great example that you show, because I think people see the crown and they see the title and they think, "Oh, it's easy," but there's life. And in life, I know for a lot of people, 2022 and 2023, life has been lifing hard.
for
So
sure.
to make sure that self-care is definitely a priority is huge, because you can't do anything. You can't pour into anyone else when you're not taking care of you. So, I know you've taken some time away from the forefront, because I mean you post and you have your website and you have things going. So what are some things you do to take care of you, to kind of reset when things get a little rough?
Sometimes I have one of the things that happened health-wise for me, I have a rare disease. It's called mast cell activation syndrome. And it's throughout my whole body. We all have mast cells. They're part of our immune system. And when they're working great, they do amazing things for us. That's what helps us heal. When we get sick, our mast cells go into charge mode and they go for it. The problem is mine go crazy, quite literally.
Oh my goodness.
And for anything or nothing, they'll do this. This is a rare disease. It's only a tiny percentage of the population. It's only been known since 2007. So it's a weird one. And I have idiopathic anaphylaxis, which I don't know if you know what anaphylaxis is, but
I've heard the word, but no, tell me.
yeah. No, what anaphylaxis is, your body goes into hyperdrive and tries to fight off whatever it's dealing with right then. And it can cause throat swelling to the point where your throat closes, which I had happen once. It causes horrendous, not just rashes, but far beyond just a rash, and all kinds of other really bad stuff. And in my case, it's throughout like 5 different parts of my body, one of them being my breathing, which breathing is not optional.
Yeah.
Got to do it. I'm now on 21 medications and had to stop working or going to school. In my case, it was school. I was 4 classes from graduation. I was not happy.
Oh no.
So I will go back. I will finish. I'm going to find a way to do it. I just got to figure it out.
Good.
My school was so amazing. I was at Seattle U, and they're so focused on social justice. It was the perfect place for me.
Mm-hmm.
And when they found out what was going on, they got a hold of me and they said, "We are making an exception. You are walking with your class." And I cried.
Oh, that's beautiful,
It
though.
still makes me tear up thinking about it, because now I couldn't do it. There's no way that I could walk in a graduation now because my immune system is so compromised. I'm like a chemo patient.
Wow.
So I'm basically pretty much stuck at home. You were talking about the fact that I'm very active online. This is why I'm active online. This is what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get laser focused on what I can do and try to help as many people as I can online and make a difference that way. Everybody has something they can do. For me, I've quit focusing on all the things I couldn't do. There was a lot. It was depressing. So we don't go there. Instead, what I do is I focus on what I can do. How can I make this interesting? How can I make this different? What can I do? And I'm going to be back to doing my lives very, very soon, which I'm excited about. We're now in this wonderful new place. This looks huge. It is. I don't have any art on the wall yet. My friend, who I've known for 20 years or more, who's an artist, has made me a painting that's going up on my wall once we get to that point.
Nice.
Little things like that. But I'm excited about where I'm going with this. And I'm working on writing my book. I actually have ideas, concepts for about 5 books.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah. So I went, okay, well, since I can't leave my house, I guess this is what it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And started working on that. I'm 100 pages in. I need about 400 so that I can then approach publishers and agents, because I want to go the traditional route.
Mm-hmm.
It'll work better for me. And part of my story is actually, it was international news. I was a victim of a man by the name of Charles Rodman Campbell, who was a serial rapist and then became a serial murderer. So the fact that I'm even alive
Oh my
is
goodness.
amazing. And I look back and I'm kind of amazed that I'm here several times over. But because of that, because of some other things, I feel like this needs to go the traditional route. And I need to get it out there as far as I can get it. And I don't mean little, I mean big.
Yeah.
I was trained as a victim advocate by my Washington State Coalition to work at the highest levels on domestic violence. There was a group called the Thriver Group that I was part of, and then they eventually sadly disbanded, but they were the ones who trained me, and they flat out said, we are training you to work at the highest levels, nationally and internationally.
Wow.
And that is my goal, to get this every place I can get it. I would love to find a way, and I'm working on it, to speak at the UN and be part of that conversation when it comes to violence against women, which is, it's a universal thing. Yeah. And we need to start addressing it, beginning with things like, everybody always asks why she doesn't leave. What happens when she leaves? Well, we have corrupt family courts.
Yep.
We need to deal with those corrupt family courts. And that's where I'm looking at going at this point in time, because after everything I've been through, I was totally blessed 25 years ago when I got full custody of my daughter. That was amazing. I wound up being in a very small percentage of people who was able to get a free attorney 25 years ago. And that's why I have my daughter, because I told the truth about what happened, and the family courts don't like that. And they will censor you, and they will take your child away. And it's not only ruined lives, women and children are dying because of this. And it's not pretty. And I'm sorry, I'd love to be able to talk about the fluff and the easy stuff. But that's not it. That's not where we all live.
Yeah. And we need the real. We need that.
Yeah. I think it's important that we're honest with people and we say, you want to know why she doesn't leave? Here's what happened when she leaves. I lost a friend 3 weeks ago who had lost her children, not been able to see them for several years, was fighting like crazy. She was a 2-time cancer survivor, got severe cancer, was terminal. And she said, that's it, I can't do this anymore. And she died. She basically said, he's going to follow me. He's going to do everything he does until I'm gone. So she went to Switzerland and she took her life. It was a choice. She was in Switzerland where it was legal. But her baby, she has 3 little girls. And her babies are now without a mom, and they're living in a nightmare situation. This guy is horrific. And when you get courts and judges who collaborate on bad things and lie, and yes, I have personal experience with this. That's how my daughter lost her only income. My daughter has CRPS, which is, once again, rare thing, that it's a type of arthritis that can result in paralysis and loss of limbs. She's been paralyzed multiple times. She was diagnosed finally at Seattle Children's when they had a program, which I guess they don't even have that now, which is sad, but she was diagnosed there. And they said she went through their intensive training program. And I stayed at Ronald McDonald House while she was in the hospital. And she eventually graduated from the program, but they took me aside and they said, look, here's the deal. For life, she will have to be in tip-top shape like a professional athlete. If she is not, the paralysis, the severe pain that's like unmedicated childbirth, that's how bad it is.
Oh, gosh.
And loss of limbs. That's what happens. Some of the Paralympians are in that position because they had CRPS and their body did not take to the treatment and they were not able to do it and they lost limbs. Well, in my daughter's case, it's even worse because she has a bleeding disorder. It's related to hemophilia A. She has von Willebrand disease. So she has clotting issues. And if there are any kind of problems during a surgery, you could be bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had stated all of this in court documents. I had backup from every doctor, the whole 9 yards. And the judge ignored it. And he allowed my ex-husband, who lives in a $1 million home in a gated community on a golf course, to plead poverty with no evidence. And then he gave him exactly what he wanted. This is what they're doing. This is what we have to stop.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm looking for a attorney who will help me and take it to civil court, because that's what we need to do. Civil court is a lot higher on there's like 5 levels of our court system. And civil court is level 2, so they're almost at the very top of the system. Family court is the lowest court.
Mm-hmm.
So what we need to do is we need to take it to civil court and say, you know what, she needs this. And Washington state law says, you are capable of supporting and helping her. You need to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is what they did for 10 years. And then even though there was a statute of limitations, which was 1 year, and the judge allowed him to do 10, it just, the whole thing made no sense.
Gosh,
But
you wonder with the courts. I've just been through from a child support divorce standpoint, so I can't imagine. I mean, and that was an awful process, but what you're going through is, and there's such a need for awareness and for those things to stop. And I think you have the perfect platform, and that you have a calling, and this is part of your calling, to raise that awareness and to change things.
Very much is.
Amazing. Okay, we got questions. I got to get these in before
Super.
we Okay, so the first one is, what's your favorite part of your platform and why?
I think my favorite part of my platform is actually the healing and success building portion of things, because I can work with therapists. I'm not a therapist, and I freely state that up front, but I can work with therapists and help enrich the lives of other survivors so that I can help them in their healing process and help them in building success afterwards, and seeing women's lives change in positive and amazing ways. There's nothing like that. It's amazing.
That's awesome. I love how you light up when you're talking about that too. I love it. I love it. So, and I know this a lot, and I know this as a friend, and I know this as I say survivor from my situation. What is the best type of advice or support that we can give someone that's in that type of situation? Because I think the most common feedback that I heard was, oh, you need to leave. And it's like, well, financially I can't. And, there's kids that there's all these pieces. And so I think people are so quick to rush to judgment and, oh, you need to leave and just be done. What is the best way that we can support a friend or someone that we see in this situation?
Be there for them, first of all. Be a listener. Talk to them, give them feedback, yes, but talk to them and listen to them and see what they want and need. There will probably come a time. I mean, I know of a situation right now where somebody was in a marriage for over 60 years and they left 9 months ago.
Wow.
But they left when it was time and they could see, if I don't get the heck out of here, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And they left. But it's not always easy. And the survivor themselves is the person who's going to know when the best time is for them to leave.
Yeah.
And judging them and saying, well, I'm not going to help you because you didn't leave or you left and came back. You have no idea what they've been through. None. And it is horrific. The post-separation abuse and the pulling back in and all of that happens. So listen first and foremost, be there, be a support in ways you can. Get a hold of your local domestic violence shelter program and say, what kind of services do you offer? So that when they come to you and they say, I'm dealing with this, you can say, hey, did you know? And be able to share a local place that can help them and that is confidential and that will be safer for them. And I did say safer. The reality is that when we leave domestic violence, when we're preparing to go and after we leave is the most dangerous time. 75% of victims who die during that period. So telling them, oh, you just got to leave, could be signing a death warrant if they leave and it's not the right time. They're going to know intuitively when the best time is for them to be able to go.
Yeah. Yeah. We have one comment. When a person leaves that situation, they're at greatest risk. If they don't have support and strategy, they're much more likely to go back. And I saw that just as a little girl. My mom went back several times and it was awful. And
the average is 7 times. Average. In my case, I only left once. Do you know why? My ex was special forces. I knew if I didn't get the heck out and really be gone, I was dead. I came too close too many times. And I'm still kind of amazed. He tried ordering me out of my own house and I was supposed to leave my daughter behind. This is my miracle daughter. I wasn't supposed to be able to have kids. I was 38 when I had her. And it was not an easy process. So, oh, heck no.
Yeah. Yeah.
He found Mama Bear.
Yeah. And you don't want to mess with a mama bear at all.
No, you don't want to mess with Mama Bear.
Definitely not. Definitely not. Okay, let me see what else is here. Oh, this is a good one. What's the hardest interview question that you've ever had?
Wow, that's an interesting question because I haven't had that one before. In a way, that might be one of the more difficult ones just because it leaves so much latitude. You can go so many different directions. And a lot of the time, what happens when you're in interview is you have this huge body of knowledge over here, and you run across something you don't know. And it's always best if you're in that situation to either say, you know, that's a really good question. I can find out the answer for that. Or just say, I don't know. It's better to be honest than not. And like I said, I think for me, that's probably right up at the top there because I get all kinds of stuff, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Because you do this too. And that's part of what makes it fun for me is the fact that, you know, you never know what you're going to get. There's this huge potpourri.
Yeah.
And it's okay, how am I going to do this? And it's think on your feet. And I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love watching Miss America and how they have the judges ask questions and, you know, they've got businessmen and they have all these, and you get these random questions and it's like, what? Where did that come from?
But some of them you just know that they've never really done interviews before or anything like that, just by the weirdness of questions.
Yes. Yes. I think that's the best way to just categorize it's weirdness, just weird questions, weird things. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about Classic Beauties International. So we know it's a virtual pageant. We know that someone got you involved, But tell us about the competition pieces of it. Like, how did you, because you guys get to pick your country. Like, how did that come about for you and all of that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and for me, because I competed for so long, when we first started out, Classic Beauties was a national pageant. And so I represented Washington State my first year.
Wow.
And then I got a phone call and they said, we're expanding. And we'd like to know if there's a country that you have a connection with and would be interested in representing. And they said, think about it and let us know.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at my daughter and I said, oh my gosh, we're part of the Russian Orthodox community where we're at and have been for years. And I have always felt this connection there that was different than anything else I'd ever had. And so that's how I wound up representing Russia to begin with.
Okay.
And then with the war, I spent weeks just crying and crying and crying. My heart was so broken, it still is. And they came back and they said, Russia's not going to have a representative this year. Do you have another country? And it was really weird because this was during the pandemic. And I had found myself like everybody else. We were all so bored that first little while. And I mean, I was probably better prepared than most because I was already pretty much at home anyway. And then the doctor called me March 6th of 2020 and he said, you're done. You're home for the duration of this.
Wow.
You're not going nowhere. So I was definitely home at that point. And my daughter loves language. And she is studying to be a linguist.
Awesome.
And she's so good. She speaks multiple languages and just loves playing with the stuff. It's her passion, kind of like domestic violence is mine. And she looked at me and she said, Mom, this is a chance for you to learn a language. And you need to think about that. And I kind of almost flippantly said, well, my Swedish grandma used to speak the language with me when I was a little kid. I don't remember it.
Yeah.
But I went, what have I got to lose? And so I got on Duolingo and started working on it. And I came to her a couple of weeks in and I went, watch this. Oh my God, I don't know how I'm doing this.
Wow.
But I would go through this stuff and I was getting it right sometimes without even knowing what I was saying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was getting it right. And time after time after time. And I said, I must have absorbed something there. I have a closed head injury from a car accident before everything else. And so I supposedly can't learn a language.
Wow.
Because of the part of my brain that was impacted by the accident.
Mm.
When you bruise your brain, it's not like bruising something else where it just heals up. You lose brain cells, they're dead, they're gone. And the part of my brain that was impacted, literally, I hit my head against my rear view mirror and broke the mirror, broke the front windshield. Thankfully, did not go out the windshield because I could have. Mm-hmm. But it was bad. And so they ran some tests and I realized that I can't do math. That is not my thing. And I've just had to work around it and find things I could do. But I was playing with the Swedish. I was not working on it. And to this day, I keep it in that vein. Mm-hmm. I don't try to push myself. I just, in fact, for the time that I've been stressed out and dealing with stuff, I stopped learning new things. I just kept going over the stuff that I knew.
Yeah.
And, kept doing what I was doing. But as I was picking up the Swedish, little bits and pieces of my grandma started popping back in my brain. Oh. And I was 8 when she died of cancer. I never got to tell my grandma goodbye.
Hmm.
And my grandma and grandpa and I were so close. Um, he would kidnap me and take me up to Camano Island, which, if you know Puget Sound, Camano Island is this beautiful place. And that's where they lived. And I would go stay for anywhere from a day to a couple weeks at a time.
Oh my goodness.
And that was my safe place growing up because it wasn't safe at home. And so I spent hours and hours and hours. And while Grandpa was at work, Grandma Nellie was over with me with her best friend, Ada Larson. And so we had, in the picture, we had a Swede, a Norwegian, and Ada's husband was Danish.
Oh my goodness.
And so they thought that when they were speaking in Swedish, that it was a secret thing and I wasn't getting it. But I actually, it's really weird because I keep hoping I'm going to remember the other half of this, because
Sure.
I remember one of the women saying to Sven, don't talk about that right now. We can't talk about that around her, pointing to me. And he came back and he said, she doesn't understand. I remember.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
So now I got to remember what it was.
So were you able to use any of your newly learned language when you did your interview for CBI?
I did, actually. I was able to introduce myself and explain that, I was Ms. Sweden, Classic Beauties International 2022. And I did all of that in Swedish. And it was a blast. It was so much fun being able to do that and honor Grandma Nellie. And I lost Grandpa 9 months before we left the domestic violence situation. And some of the information that he gave me wound up saving my life.
Wow.
So there's a connection there too. And I love being able to honor that connection.
Definitely. Definitely. So you mentioned, and you told me that nothing was off limits, so I'm going to ask.
Yeah,
So
no, go for it.
you mentioned that home wasn't safe. Was home at that time when you were growing up a domestic violence type situation as well?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And sadly, it was bad. And when I attempted to talk to people about it a couple of times, it accomplished nothing.
Yeah.
So my understanding of domestic violence at that point in time was, because everybody knew what was happening,
Mm-hmm.
it was out in the open. My understanding was that that's what domestic violence was, and it was going to be out in the open.
Yeah.
And then when I got with my ex, like a lot of them, he showed himself to be this kind, gentle, caring person that was just almost too good to be true.
Yep.
Which was
He
the
was.
case.
Yeah. Been there, done that. Yeah.
But he has another side. But yeah, I didn't understand that when I first got into my situation as an adult, because I had grown up with it right out in the open. And domestic violence is also about so much more than just being hit, kicked, or physically abused.
Yep.
Yes, it's about sexual abuse. It's also about mental and emotional abuse. It is about spiritual abuse. There's so many things that can be abused. Huge one that is used in post-separation abuse is financial abuse.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's so scary, I think what is so scary about those other forms of abuse is many times, I know for me personally, I didn't realize that I was in an abusive situation until after the fact. I just thought it was horrible and it was this horrible person. And then once I got out and I was like, oh, wow, the financial and the spiritual and the emotional, all the things that you wouldn't classify technically as abuse back in, the day, it was, you had to be hit or kicked.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh my gosh, for 17 years, that was my life. So I'm just so grateful to you and your platform, and everybody listening and commenting is like, oh my gosh. So yeah, Candace, you don't realize sometimes it's too late or over.
Yeah.
So many forms, so many forms. And I have to ask, because your daughter growing up seeing these things, how has that impacted her view as far as relationships and dating and all that good stuff?
Yeah. My daughter is pretty much terrified of the whole dating thing at this point because she saw what happened. She knows the drill from mom.
Yeah, yeah,
I am determined that she is not going to be in an abusive relationship if I have anything to say about it. And I've tried to make sure that she knows the resources, she
sure.
knows the signs, and that she has the contacts to be able to help her to both heal herself because she went through trauma. She still has PTSD, and hers is multiplied as well because of other things she's been through. And she needs to work on her healing, and then that will help. But what happens typically to both domestic violence survivors and their kids is the trauma impacts us clear down at the DNA level, clear down into our cells. And that's passed on to generation after generation after generation. In my own case, I know it goes back at least 3 generations. I'm
Wow.
sure it goes back much farther though.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens as we work on healing and we get with a really good trauma informed provider that we trust and work with, what happens at that point is it begins to heal at the DNA level. And this is something that's fairly recent that they've begun to find out, is that in doing that healing, that can actually help future generations along with us. And so I've had her, when she was younger, I had her in counseling. She put herself back in counseling because she said, Mom, this is what I need. And
That's
she's not about
wonderful.
me.
That's wonderful, though. I mean, to even acknowledge, like, hey, I'm not this is not feeling right. I need to get more help. That's amazing.
Yeah. And
That's good
it
parenting,
takes a
Mama.
lot.
Yeah, that's that's good.
Sometimes, we go, when they're in their teens, we go through that whole thing of, am I going to make it through this?
Yeah,
And we're just not sure.
yeah, for
And
sure.
mine is now 29 now, and we did it.
That's awesome. I have to pop this one up. Your director is on. She says, "Hi, Queen."
Oh, hey.
Hi, Queen. I love Diva G. She's
Good to see
amazing.
you.
She's amazing. So what does your daughter think of you being a pageant queen? Is she into pageants as well, or?
Actually, at this point, no, she's not. We've laughed because we're kind of opposite when it comes to some parts of our personality. And for me, before I started working on healing, um, I was probably more introverted, but I was still pretty out there.
Mhm.
I knew by the time I was 5 years old, I was going to be a singer, and I was working on it. And by the time I was 11, I was singing with adult choirs as a guest. I sang at the old Seattle Opera House. I've done all kinds of fun
Oh
stuff.
my goodness.
But that's just my temperament and personality.
Mhm.
And so pageants are like a natural. Like I said, I found my people. But with my daughter, when she was young, she saw me doing it and she thought she might want to do it. And then I said, well, wait till you're a little bit older, because she was kind of youngish and I wanted to make sure she really knew what she was up to.
Sure.
And
Sure.
she waited and she said, no, Mom, I don't think I want to do that. I've seen what you do, and it's a real thing and it's important. But I like being in theater and I like being behind the scenes. One of her highlights of her life was running the spotlights for the first time for a big theater production that I was involved in.
Oh, fun.
So she's involved, but she's involved in other ways. So she was the one who helped me set up all my equipment today.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. Thank you to her.
She's a genius when it comes to anything computer and tech. She's amazing and such a blessing from God, in so many ways.
That's you, Mama. You're doing a good job. Just you as I'm just feeling so empowered and encouraged from just talking to you tonight. So I can only imagine with 29 years of her talking to you how that's been. So it's all you, Mama. All you. Do you think that pageantry has helped you kind of with your healing process through things that have happened?
Yeah, very much so. In my case, I had just won my first at-large state title. And 2 weeks later, I actually got to go meet the governor for Washington State and have my picture taken with him. We used to have some amazing pictures of my 3-year-old daughter giving Governor Locke a high five.
Oh, that's
And
cute.
she found, because she was with us, she found the stash of toys. Governor Locke had the same kind of desk that Kennedy had. And Governor Locke's daughter is just a few months different in age than my daughter.
Okay.
And she found the toy stash, and he just was thrilled that she found it.
Oh my gosh.
So
That's
she's
so
gotten
cool.
to do some really fun stuff. She did her first parade doing her princess wave when she was only about 3.
That's so cute. That's so cute. So, what would your advice be to someone that has been through a domestic violence situation or any type of situation where they've just really lost confidence and just don't think pageants are for them?
Well, I would say never. Think about it, see where you're coming from. The most important thing you can do is get with a trauma informed therapist and begin to work on healing. For all of us, that means different things. For me, what happened was I'd won my first title. 2 weeks later, I had my picture taken with Governor Locke. A week after that, I was calling my director from shelter and saying, I'm not going to make it to nationals, and I'm not sure what the future holds for us. Because I was in confidential shelters for 4 months because he had threatened our lives. And so it was a long process. But when I won that first title, the weird thing that happened to me, and there will be people that go, ooh, she's really out there, but oh well. I am me.
That's all you
And
can be.
yeah, exactly. I was woke up out of a sound sleep one morning by a big booming voice that said, the healing has begun. And I was having a dream, and in my dream, I was walking across the stage at nationals. And I didn't know what that meant. It literally woke me up, and I'm not a morning person. It had me up at 6 a.m. So it had a significant impact on me at that point. I didn't know what I needed to do. Mm-hmm. I just knew that this was important, whatever it was, and that I would be remembering it, and it meant something. And after I left, it took about 10 years to get to my first competition. And when I got on that stage, when I got in the room and looked at the stage, my heart started pounding. And when I went to take the first couple of steps up onto that stage, I almost went down. And it wasn't my body, it was the exact stage that I had seen in my dream. So I knew for me, that was the way for me to go. But that doesn't mean for everybody that it's a blanket thing. The program that I have actually uses a lot of the same concepts and things in it that are in a pageant. They're used in a slightly different way, but I have found that competing and being a title holder at any level gives you an opportunity to build your confidence, become a stronger person, and give back in amazing ways. And I love that. It's just something I always have.
Definitely, definitely. And I think that it's so amazing that you just demonstrate on a daily basis that you can give back from anywhere. So you don't have to be out and about in the community, and you don't have to be zipping all over the place. There are things that you can develop and that you can implement from home on a virtual level that can make a huge impact. And that's what you're doing. And you kind of touched on it. And you're like, well, my program, tell us about your program, because I want to make sure everybody knows about this.
Sure. My program basically starts as a survivor is working on starting over. So it kind of dovetails what you're learning in your therapy. It helps you to find other people who are dealing with similar issues, because I have classes. I started out teaching one person at a time, but at this point, there's so many good things that you can get when you can work with other people on stuff. And especially when it comes to domestic violence issues. One of the hugest things that abusers use is isolation.
Yes.
And
Oh,
what
yeah.
happens in a class, all of a sudden, there's not only these other people, they know, they've lived what you've lived. The specific experiences may have been different, but they know exactly what it's like to live under that kind of oppression. They get it. They're not going to look down on you. They're not going to say, well, you should have left earlier. None of that. What they do is they're there for one another, and they listen for one another, and they support each other. So that part of the program, I don't even have to do, because they're learning and they're getting things from each other. One of the biggest things that happens in domestic violence is that we don't know how to relate to other people because of that isolation, for one. And we don't know who we can trust. And this cuts down a lot of those barriers, because the trust is there, because you know this person has been through what I've been through. She's got the same vulnerabilities I do. We're both in the same place at the same time. And even if I only trust a little, I can trust this person. And that's where it starts. So we start with that. We work on supporting people as they're going through the process with a therapist. But at the same time, we're working on building our own skills and building our own confidence. And those are two other huge pieces that you need when you're starting over. And if you're going to be successful, you have to have those. Yeah. So there are a number of projects that we do and a number of other things. One of the things that I'm really excited about that's part of things is a community service project. And that can be anything. It's whatever you want it to be. All you have to do is come to me and say, hey, this is what I want to do. And I'll look at it and I'll go, ooh, that's cool. Yeah, go for it.
Awesome.
And they'll be out there and giving back. And at the same time they're giving back, they're getting more positive back from others. So it forms this amazing circle that helps in that healing. They will be able to put everything together. And right now I'm actually working on the graduation part of things, which I'm really excited about.
That's so cool.
I was saying this is a lot like a pageant. Well, it's going to be somewhat like a pageant in the fact that there will be a live graduation ceremony. Each participant will actually, I'm working on getting sponsors right now. This is the whole thing, is putting all of this together, and it takes time and it's had to go on the back burner, but I'm working on getting sponsors. to be able to have a gown, a crown, and a banner for each participant. And what happens is they come in their gown and they go through the process and they demonstrate for the judges that they have worked on building interview skills and that they're worked on building confidence. And there's other specifics that they will have worked on, and they'll be able to demonstrate all of that. And we don't give an actual title. They become an ambassador survivor. And so that happens at the end of the night, and they are given their crown and their banner, and they are named an ambassador. And then they can go out and help other survivors to begin to build their lives and do whatever it is that their calling is. Because part of what I teach is finding your calling, and what is it? It's going to be different for everybody.
Amazing.
So
that's amazing. Oh my God.
It's something that clear back when I was in shelter, in fact, in the very first shelter I was in, I realized in that shelter, I went, I'm going to be back here, and I'm not going to be back here as a survivor. I'm going to be back here teaching. I'm going to be back here helping others. And I didn't know what it was yet. That didn't come until came when I was going through the whole anaphylaxis thing after the radio station. Excuse me.
Wow.
But it just came about as a result, and all of the little pieces came together, and I went, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to do.
Yep. When you have that calling and that purpose, it shows up, and yours has shown up in a big way. So I know you were working on your website. How can people follow or get more information? I did post if people were looking to help sponsor to reach out to you, but how can people follow you or reach out on this journey?
Right now, the website is in limbo only because of all of the post-separation abuse stuff. I'm living on almost nothing right now. So we're working on that.
Okay.
But you can always find me on Facebook. Actually, you can find me right now at Ms. Classic Beauties International. You can also find me under my name, Carissa Alexandra. You can find me under Survival to Success Academy. And you can find me various other places as well. If you get a hold of me online, let me know where you saw me, what you're interested in finding out, and I'll help you any way I can. If you're interested in volunteering, I would love that.
Awesome.
I need people to help. Awesome. So just let me know if you're interested in doing that.
Okay, it's almost been an hour. I could talk to you all night. But I try to keep it in an hour for everybody that's watching at home.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want everyone to know about you, or what's next for you? I mean, you're crowning in October. Are you going to do this again? What's your next step?
I've been debating going back and forth, and I was here the other day. I was looking at myself and going, I'm going through the same thing I went through before. Maybe it's time to just hang it up and be done. And the other part of me is going, there's this other competition that you've been looking at for a year and a half.
Uh-huh.
And it's virtual. And it will help build my communication skills in a different way, because the direction I'm going is I want to continue to build my speaking following and get more speaking engagements. I've been speaking for a long time because of my music, since I was 5 years old. But what I do now is very different than what I did then. But I'm really comfortable, generally speaking, in front of a crowd. Before pandemic, I used to go and speak in front of 5,000 people, and that was just a blast.
Oh my goodness.
You get just a little bit of a butterfly in your stomach and you go, oh yeah. it's the adrenaline junkie in me. What can I say?
Oh my goodness. Oh my
But
goodness.
I
Yeah,
want
people.
to build that, and I want to get my book published, hopefully get several published.
Hmm.
And I want to get my program up the way that it needs to be, right out there, so that survivors can easily find it and get involved and build a new life afterwards. So, and like I said, little things like wanting to speak for the UN. I
Yeah,
would love to work on an international level on this. And now with the internet the way that it is, we can actually do this.
absolutely.
So I've been asked
Absolutely.
to speak nationally at Congress in the past and couldn't do it because there was nothing like this. Well, now there is. So guess what?
Yeah.
I'm going to be taking advantage of that when I can.
Yeah. People, I don't think she's retiring. I think we're going to see more of this one. I don't think you're done at all. All right. Um, oh, wait. Okay. Wait. Gwen has a comment for you. Says you need to make sure to share that program in Royal Productions before your reign is done. There could be other queens who would love to help you with your program. Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
absolutely will. I
And other
absolutely will.
systems. And other systems. I'm gonna blast this out.
Oh,
So yeah,
please. Yeah.
we're gonna
Like
we're
I
gonna
said,
get
I
you
would
some help.
love to get all the help I can get and, get people involved,
Yeah,
because that's what's really going to make this go. Is the more people that we can get involved, the more it's going to really work the way that it's meant to work.
absolutely.
And the more lives we can touch, you know.
That's what it's about.
Probably the weirdest thing that I had happen, I'll just say this, it's totally off topic, but kind of fun. The weirdest thing that I had happen, but the absolutely most amazing that I had happen with my reign as Ms. Sweden and my reign now as CBI um, International. Probably the weirdest, but the most amazing is I've had a friend for 10 years who was the original host of What Not to Wear, the TV show. And met him through pageants, and we just kind of talked back and forth, and we followed each other, and that was about that. And really, really cool person. And he was out and letting people know that, hey, if you want to use my services, let me know. I'm opening things up for people and whatnot. And so I sent him a private message, and I said, I know I can't afford you. Know that
But
first and foremost. But how bad would the damage be?
yeah,
Because I really, really would love to do it. And this goes clear back. Like I said, he was the original host of What Not to Wear. And I used to watch that show and go, oh my gosh, if only I could do that.
yeah, yeah.
That could never happen for me, but if only. And what wound up happening is he has worked a deal with me, and he is helping me with my wardrobe.
Oh
And
my goodness.
I still am in total shock and amazement at what my incredible friend has done for me, because he loves me. And it's just incredible that he is doing what he is doing to help me. And
Oh my gosh.
it's just amazing. So that was a very different sort of a thing, but an incredibly amazing thing.
I love it.
And I think some of it has to do with the fact that he knows what direction I'm going with what I'm doing. And he knows how hard it is for someone who's been oppressed and through horrible things to try and heal, to try and rebuild. And he's using his gift to help others. So
That's what it's about. That's what it's all about. Okay, you're gonna get me talking all night. I gotta do
yeah,
stuff.
no.
We always end with the onstage question. So my question for you: if you were at a pageant and could have a professional hair or makeup artist, which would you choose and why?
I would actually choose to have my hair done. My hair is a challenge. As you can see here, I have natural curls. They go flat over time, sadly, and I'm still playing with products to try and find the right one. I discovered all these curls in the middle of pandemic. I always thought I had straight, stringy, thin hair. No, I don't.
Oh my
I
goodness.
actually have spirals and I love them, but I can't keep them. So I'm still working on them. And I would love to have somebody who knows how to work it to be able to work with it and make it work. I have some limits because part of the reason I have some gray in my hair is because I can't color it. Because the whole anaphylaxis thing, you don't want any trips to ER in the middle. That would totally fry the hair. So no, we're not going there.
Oh my goodness.
But I love the fact that it has curl. And I would love to have somebody help me with it.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I have enjoyed this hour with you. Like I said, I could talk to you for hours more. People are in here like commenting how awesome you are and that they screamed when you won and they were so excited. And I mean, I hope you go back and read the comments because this is good stuff.
I'm going to.
I can't thank you enough for being on tonight. I will be following you and your journey. And this will be on my Facebook channel, my YouTube channel, and on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So we'll get it out there. And then anything that I can do or our viewers can do to support you, please let me know. I'm happy to advertise it and share it. And I'll be watching your journey along with everyone else.
Super. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the invite.
Thank you so much. And everybody watching, thanks for tuning in tonight. Never let anybody dull your sparkle because they can't handle your shine. And we will see you on the next episode of Crown Chat. Good night, everybody.